Welcome, fellow Zoocoiners. You're with Dr. Zoo. Dr. Zoo on the 16th of April, 2026. Now, we do have some new headphones and we do have a new speaker. So we just keep improving. There's probably a bit of an echo or not, but I'm not sure. Just give me a thumbs up out there in Zoocoin world. And all sounds good. Beautiful. That's all I need to hear. Dr. Zoo needs to hear that. Now, before we start, do not miss next Thursday's Dr. Zoo, 23rd of April. Big news. Huge news. Ready to rock and roll, baby. Won't tell you what the news is, but it's big. It is big. Unleash the beast. I've got an interview next Thursday. He's not a legend at the moment, but he will be. The project manager of Zutopia is going to join me with some big news. April. We said April. It's going to be April. It will be April. It's going to be big. I can't tell you enough, team, because you are going to love it. I'm pumped. I cannot believe what we've been witnessing in the last week or so. It's probably longer than that, but Dr. Zoo is pumped. Absolutely pumped. Now, 23rd April 2026. Do not miss that show. There is, aside from the news, there's a lot to show and talk about. You will not believe it. We are taking on the world. Oh, finally. Unbelievable. Everybody is excited. So we'll have Riley Redford, project manager. He is super pumped with what they're doing, and we will take all questions. We will give all answers, and we'll get you excited just as much as the team around us is excited. So good time tonight, people. Good time. I feel good. I feel great. We all feel good. Look out. Look out. We can start to really get into our little world of taking on the world of all the things we've talked about and built up for this journey. Sit tight with it. Now, just a reminder, welcome aboard all those new Zooconians. Just make sure you follow the website. We've had a few changes that are happening, particularly with some of the social media. You know, Dr. Zoo doesn't like social media. We know that because he got banned, but that's okay. We can live with that. What he does like is when others take over the social media, and you're going to see some things happening, especially with Facebook. Probably Instagram feeds into that, and that's just general stuff. So the team is setting out some new bits and pieces tomorrow, in fact, on that front. And there'll be a contribution there. It's more about information and updates and here we go. But to all the new Zooconians, welcome aboard. Check the website out, zoocoins.com. Keep an eye out for myzoocoins.org. That's the inner sanctum brain of our great CTO, Robert Novak. Built the most extraordinary program you've ever seen. Now, I can't help with that query on no sound because it means that there's something happening at your end. From this end and from the people that are listening, we seem to be okay. So just check your internet connection and check what you're looking at because it would be a problem from your side. Now, you can go to the website. You can revisit the Zoo AI link. It's at the top of the page. That gives some extraordinary insights over the journey. And pretty well nearly most things that Dr. Zoo's been rambling on about have been coming to fruition on all fronts. It's been an extraordinary time and extraordinary enlightenment. There is also the link that you can see off this site where you get to listen to the repeats of these shows. You get to look at the overview. There is truckloads of information. And of course, as I mentioned to someone the other day, you have the ability to ask whatever you want. If you've got some marital problems, you share it on this site. You put it in the little chat area there you see, and you can ask the questions and hit us hard. So for those that are just joining, do not miss next Thursday, 23rd of April. You're going to be absolutely thrilled and excited. And oh my goodness, hey, what a journey. So Dr. Zoo, as you know, gets a lot of feedback, a lot of interesting articles that come through, and some grab his attention. And there was one in particular this week. Well, actually, there was a couple. The big one was Kraken. Now, remember, we had some potential deals with Kraken as an exchange. Now, what's interesting on that one is, on one hand, it is a big exchange. Don't get me wrong. The boys are busy on that exchange, and I was very worried about their systems and program and how they operate as a custodial exchange globally and the on and off ramps. I won't go waffling on too much about that. But two things happened. One, they got a check for $200 million. They sold down part of their business for $200 million. And we're talking 1.5%. That gives it, give or take a few billion, $13 or $14 billion cap, which is huge. Now you'd think, after all these years, and they copped a few whacks with their system hacking and all sorts of stuff, that people lost truckloads of money, you'd think they'd have been on top of it. And what happens? The same week, they get the $200 million. It's a lot of millions. They get an extortion fraud racket. Because some naughty employees, or someone with access to the internal operations, took some very naughty videos of client accounts and all sorts of inner sanctum stuff that shouldn't be released to the public. And then they've created an extortion attempt on Kraken for wanting a few bob not to release those videos. Now, if one, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. Secondly, Kraken, to its credit, came out of the blocks, admitted to the problem, and then decided to say everything's safe. Don't you worry about a thing. If you've got your coins with Kraken, you can just relax, sit on that chair outside on the beach, having that little pina colada, and not worry about a thing. You must be joking. That's what Dr. Zoo has been on about for a number of years, and that is on the record in Zoo AI. It has been talked about by Dr. Zoo for a long time, to where we are, all our long-term great supporters out there, drilling towards Zutopia is what we've wanted, because it is a non-custodial peer-to-peer marketplace. It doesn't take information in. It gets people logged in access by simple signature, basically cryptographic signatures. When you open your Zoocoin wallet, you lock into your Zutopia, and away you go. Now, you do have to have compliance if you're dealing with the buying and selling from Stripe's perspective, but that is Stripe. So that's just how the world is. But the good news is Zutopia doesn't store any crypto, doesn't worry about your money. You get paid, transferred directly from buyer and seller, and it's a world first. There is no marketplace like it, which makes it even more exciting with that big news next week. Stay tuned. Now, when you look at the exchanges, it's interesting that on the back of that, news came out literally on the 13th, which is 3 days ago, that all of a sudden they're getting a bit smart, these regulators or state government bodies. Now, we're not talking about Australia at this stage. Dr. Zoo hasn't done any homework yet on the property ownership issues, but it's rolling out in America. And it's very, very interesting. Now, on the 13th, bear in mind that you've got exchanges like Kraken that are holding custodialship of people's coins, valuable digital assets. And there's a bit of dissension too, even in the Bitcoin world. Some of the developers are suggesting they get together, put their heads together, and anybody with a early Bitcoin wallet in the Satoshi-era, they're suggesting that they should, freeze those accounts. Now, I thought it was a decentralized protocol. But no, they're thinking about, let's just wake up. We don't like the fact that if quantum computing breaks the crap out of these Bitcoin wallets and smashes the crypto encryption protections, then criminals, the naughty people, can break into these early wallets, steal potentially 4.5 million Bitcoin, and go and use it. And the answer is extraordinary, which I'll circle back to the laws that have been signed in America, but the solution is not about migrating the Bitcoin, protections and mechanisms of the current encryption. Guess what they're suggesting? How about we just put a protocol change in, bit of a fork, into the Bitcoin scenario, and all those Satoshi-era type wallets that haven't moved, we'll just freeze them. Now, so much for the freedom of the digital asset world. Now, the problem shouldn't be the fact that these people haven't touched their Bitcoin for all these years. It could be a squillion reasons. I mean, Satoshi might be very patient and he wants to get a bit more value. He wants to buy a country. How do we know that Satoshi doesn't want to cash up a bit more and give Jacinta Allen a refinancing of the 200 billion she's blowing? That could be a viable proposition. The point is, when you start fiddling with the protocol, and you fiddle to the extent that you have a third party that could freeze these coins, Bitcoin's in deep doo-doo land. Deep doo-doo land. Because it should be the right and sovereign right of those that own the coins. Now, if you are naughty, then look, the law will catch up with you. And there are mechanisms in the Western world civilized court systems that could have all sorts of warrants and orders and freezing orders, etc., to sort that out. It doesn't need a handful of developers to brainstorm and come up with a solution of freezing other people's digital assets. And this is the problem I raised the other day with the great Justin Sun, who's having this shit fight, this firestorm with Trumpy on the World Liberty Finance coin. That is really going down the toilet, not only in price, but because he's upset that the governance body of that coin is locking out and freezing people's accounts. Now, it's bad enough that our great banks that we deal with like to freeze things because they don't like your spending behavioural habits. You know, someone said the other day, they said, "Gee, Dr. Zoo, saw you in the club the other day, and put a couple of bob in a poker machine." And Dr. Zoo's response was this: "Well, he's never lost a single cent in any long-term journey of playing a poker machine." Now, there's a lot of gambling issues out there and addicts and all the rest of it. But Dr. Zoo reminded this particular person that in that journey, his contribution to that local club keeps the staff employed, the wages going for the chef and the cooks, the electricity on, the discounted drinks, and all those wonderful things that as a community we wish to enjoy. And it's a far easier way of contributing direct taxes into the hands of the community than allowing our extraordinary, wonderful leaders of the federal and state governments to work out how to lose our money, because they cannot manage it whichever way you take it. It's unbelievable. The concepts they've come up with. I mean, even the other day, Jim Chalmers must have got his degree out of a Wheatie box on how to run a treasury and make up these numbers. And suddenly there's $53 billion for the Defence Force that's going to put in another 3 boats, a couple of canoes, really strengthen our drone army, and away you go. So the point is self-custodialship of your assets and money. If you feel like pissing it up against the wall when the coins hit $1,000, good luck to you. We had an inquiry the other day and we sent off a bit of a note about the ATO position on personal disposal type expenditures. This is the $10,000 or less of crypto that you buy short term and use it specifically for direct to merchants. You can see that on the ATO website, and there is a tax break. So use it. If the coins are flying and you're all pumped up and excited, you may choose not to convert to fiat and allow the boys and the team here to get merchants excited with Zukaz, all the wonderful things it can do, smash out of the park the substitution of, instead of Mark Zuckerberg getting another bigger boat or a house, it goes straight to the consumer. And you can create your tokenization and you can list those if you need to. More importantly, use the coin value proposition direct to merchants, because they get the benefit of receiving those fractions or coins in a treasury. Once that's in their hands, it becomes a self-sovereign right without institutions governing what you want to do with it. Just like the questions. I mean, you try and deposit $8,000 and see all the rigmarole you've got to go through just to put it back into the bank, and then the bank questions what you do with it. Or they block and they stop on the pretext, which they keep going on about, which is all about the scams. That's the problem. They use one mechanism to all of a sudden, play with your minds about your personal assets, which includes the crypto. Now, there's a couple of people there I just noticed that, does it mean Zutopia launch next Thursday? I can guarantee you this. This time. It's very hard to guarantee in this world of both e-commerce, meshing it in with developers and coding and all that sort of stuff, getting apps right. But we said it was going to launch in April, and it will, and we will chat about that next Thursday, the 23rd of April, with an interview with the project developer, Riley Redford, for those that missed it. But it is huge news. It is going to be cannot wait stuff. Cannot wait. Good time tonight, as our great Jimmy Barnes has just shared with you earlier. Good times tonight, people. I feel good tonight. I feel good today. I'm going to feel better tomorrow. I'm going to feel super great by Thursday morning. Cannot wait. Now, we talk about protecting and the custodialship of these digital assets. And I wanted to flag, if you bring all that together we just talked about, the direct relevance of how important you guys need self-control, self-custody as what we've designed and developed. The Zcoin wallet, for that reason. Make sure you back it up, for God's sake. We've told you this a million times. It's not hard. Go in your wallet, press the little settings cog at the top right, press the backup button, follow the instructions, put it into a USB, a hard drive, print it out if you have to, store it in iCloud, encrypt it, but back it up. You back it up, you haven't got a problem. You don't, you lose it. It's gone. Never, never. Your fortune down the toilet. That's the self-custody mechanism. It's in your control. That's why you don't have the issues like Kraken or Coinbase or Binance or any of those centralised, controlled exchanges that we've spent this long and hard journey to build out Zutopia. The instant transactions look fantastic, people. Zutopia instant transactions offline, or off exchange rather, mind-blowing. But now we get to the funny, juicy bit of where people in power and government, whether it's at the state level like in America or federal, or even Jimbo, Jimbo's thinking about a change, a retrospective tax change to try and pick up some additional tax going back to 2006. Can you believe it? He woke up one morning, went to the dunny, came out, and Jimbo scratched his ass and said, how can I raise a few more bob to, put into maybe Chris Bowen's account for some renewables, some more solar panels, because we haven't worked out how to recycle them. They're highly toxic. Hundreds of thousands of panels are going to be coming due for new replacement, and they can't work out where to put them. Can't use them in landfill. And Jimbo does this. And he comes up and says, I'm going to tax foreign corporations going back retrospectively to 2006. 2006. I would say to you that could be unconstitutional, because if you're creating a tax offence that the transactions are completed and you're trying to chase your back pocket looking for additional money because you're out of money and you want to hit the multinationals, then he comes up with this bright-ass idea. He could be creating criminal offences of people that were legally compliant in 2006, and now they become uncompliant, and that could be unconstitutional. You can't have retrospective laws that create criminal offences. You've been a bit naughty, Jimbo. Now, I haven't seen the draft legislation. You've been waffling on about it. But this is what happens. Jimbo, Jacinta, and the gang are examples of total human incompetence that leads to ridiculous laws. And now let's have a look, finally, at what happened on the April 13, 2026, in the state of Virginia, America. Now, they realised someone did their homework, and they said there's a lot of lazy people who leave their bitcoins and things in wallets under the custody of crypto exchanges. Now, it's quite amazing, actually. It's quite ingenious, really. So they work out that people are lazy or can't be bothered, looking up their wallets or following up with the exchange, and they might come back to it at some stage. But she's now passed a law, House Bill 798, came into effect It'll kickstart on the 1st of July. This is if in your Virginia. And we've got a lot of people, clients in Virginia, they're worried about having their crypto assets at an exchange. This helps us people. We're now getting to the crux of the matter. This helps Zutopia because of these stupid laws. But what is the law? Well, the law is this. The law amends the Virginian State Disposition of Unclaimed Property Act. And it includes now specific rules for digital assets held by crypto exchanges that's in their custody. Now, when a custodian, like an exchange, in order to hold those crypto assets, they need full control of the private keys because that's how they transfer the assets and do the instructions, and that's all the big problem. So in the Zutopia world, you guys do the entire process. That's the most amazing bloody thing of the Zutopia world and Zucoins and split chain. You have the power to retain the Zucoins and transfer them securely between a buyer and seller. Now, these poor buggers in Virginia, they need an exchange. And then they forget about the bits and pieces. Now, you've only got to leave a small fraction of a Bitcoin from 3 or 4 years ago, and it's easy to forget. But that might be worth $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. You know, you paid next to nothing. Be like some of these people coming into Zutopia, and they're going to buy some cheap coins, and then in 2 months or 4 months or 5 months, 6 months, price goes through $1,000 and you got some wealthy people. But you might forget about the little 5 or 10 or 20 coins. Now, guess what the law says? They've now passed a law that forces these exchanges, and they're trying to drum this up as good news, by the way, but the law in Virginia means that during that process, now just getting to the actual act here, but if those wallets show no activity, in other words, they're dormant, then for 5 years, they can take the wallet and the digital assets under state custody. So they take it off the exchange and whack it into the government's state coffers of the state of Virginia. Now, they're not as, desperate there. They say, look, we will become the administrator of those digital assets and we'll look after them because you haven't sort of looked at them for 5 years, and we've got to hold them for another year. So the state government holds the digital assets for another year. And then they get to the exciting bit. They can then sell those digital assets at whatever the price is. Now, suddenly you wake up and it might be worth a fortune. You might have had $1 million. So they've sold your Bitcoin, cashed in $1 million worth, but the Bitcoin's doubled. It's now worth $2 million. And you know what? If you do make a claim after another year, you're only entitled to the proceeds of the sale. You have no rights of the appreciation and the increase in the value. Now, if you don't claim, this is where it gets really, really cool. After that period, the state puts it into a wonderful thing called the literary fund, which is these excess funds go to the state expenditure coffers to cover the bills for, in this instance, in this particular fund, for public education as part of the overall Virginia state expenditures that are in the budgets to meet that particular sector of public spending. Now, what a concept. What a concept. They know the numbers. The exchanges can provide accurate information and detailed information on idle wallets. Poor buggers that have forgotten about it may never talk to the Virginia government again, may never get their money or proceeds, get no appreciation in value if it goes through the roof, and they have now transferred to the Treasury for expenditure of government expenditures required by the bureaucracy. What a concept. Which is why I say maybe instead of going through that convoluted mess, it's better to reduce your taxes by having your own personal exertion direct expenditure with a merchant, make that contribution to a poker machine, and then sit back and have that discounted happy hour beer. Cool. Oh, man. Hey, get that down. You have another one and just look around the room and think of all the electricity you've just paid directly for and the wonderful staff that come up and serve you and give you a little bit of a chocolate teddy bear or a Kit Kat. And knowing that you, from the bottom of your heart, have directly contributed to the community and the society without going through all this legislative hoo-ha to take your assets, gut the price, put them in Treasury, and let Jimbo get his grubby hands on them, and then try and backdate the process that happens as a result. Self-custody, people. It cannot be more important than ever in this current world we are dealing with, and it's around the world. I mean, I thought I'd better just check. Maybe Virginia was one state that, ran out of money and woke up one morning and said, shit, how can we get our grubby hands on people's assets? Starts there, and then it ends up like Jacinta Allen. Slowly, you own a property in Victoria, and then there's this great concept called land tax. It creeps up and up and up. And you know what? If you don't pay that stuff, they'll just seize your asset. A bit like this dormant account with crypto. I mean, all of a sudden, it makes it easy for these bureaucrats and regulators to seize your hard-earned assets. Sovereign control is crucial. I mean, just on that, you think about land tax. You own the property, you get nothing in return, unlike council rates. The old bin gets put out and there's a bit of water and a couple of sewage pipes. And all of a sudden, land tax. Someone woke up in 1911, ran out of money in South Australia, the government, and said, how about we tax someone for the land that they own based on an increase that we put in as part of the valuation. We have nothing to do with the land. It's theirs. But we will create a tax on something we have nothing to do with or own, and out of thin air, create a new revenue stream. Can you believe it? And the crypto space, I was quite horrified. Dr. Zoo looked at it and said, holy hell, where does this stop? I mean, California's even got worse crypto laws. Arizona is out there in fairyland. Illinois is a train wreck. And they say this is a good thing because people should go and get their custodial assets on their own initiative. And we can't let people think for themselves. We've got to put these laws in place that forces the basically repossession of your assets, and we'll sell them. And if you do make a claim, we'll sort that stuff out a bit later on. Now, these are our fellow allies, our US of A allies. And they've got to put up with this stuff because they've got no alternative but to get involved with crypto, deal with centralised custodial exchanges that themselves are ratbag risk takers, as we saw just by the example of Kraken. You don't make this stuff up. This is daily happening. Or the World Liberty Finance coin, they can freeze whenever they like because they have a governance body. And then you have a state which is a complete train wreck like California, can't afford anything. That's why there's now the tech gurus and the billionaires have had enough. They're moving to Texas. They're trying to get away from this nightmare scenario that's happening. And California has even more mandatory issues. Now they say it's part of the Unclaimed Property Acts that we've had. Well, what the hell are they about? You've got to be careful, and we're going to look after, Zutopia is going to look after our fellow American allies because, people, there are hundreds of millions of people and there is a truckload of people that love this space and their ass is in a sling. And Zutopia, structurally, can give you the comfort of self-custodianship, the ability to communicate, instantly transfer and buy and sell either amongst each other in your home currency or around the world. And it's your responsibility to look after your wallet, backups, make sure that you've got accessible, systems in place that preserve and protect those backups. If that's the case, you're miles ahead than suddenly getting yourself caught up in these both state and federal laws that are coming at us thick and fast. And they all say it's on the basis of looking after you. You know, Albo comes out and says he doesn't want anybody to look at gambling ads because you can't manage your life. Now, there's probably people that can't do that and need help, but they need help directly. Not, turning off an ad. That's not going to do much. And then they say, oh, well, we can't get rid of it all because 7 to 12% of the total state budgets and federal money comes in from those sort of taxes that relate to gambling. The industry needs those funds, whether it's in horse racing or poker machines or any other form of gambling. Lottery. I mean, lottery is a classic example. In fact, I think there's a big one tonight, a $40 million Powerball. You watch that go through the roof. People will be looking at the easy option. You've got a 1 in about 9 million chance of, winning the thing. I mean, Dr. Zoo's got a ticket. Don't you worry about that. But it keeps people employed and keeps them all in different jobs and keeps the companies trading on the stock exchange, and that feeds into capital gain, and that feeds into super funds and retirement, and suddenly there's a couple of old pensioners there at 65 that are enjoying their retirement money, all complimentary from gambling and stocks that are listed on the exchanges around the world. But again, we are absolutely super pumped with what's coming. You'll hear about it. We could probably talk about it and release it a bit early, but the powers to be, the devs, said, Dr. Zoo, wait till Thursday. Wait till Thursday, and then we'll share everything. And that commitment of April for Zutopia. Now, don't get too wound up about price. Dr. Zoo's hosing that down a bit. There's no other way to talk about it other than, yes, we are going to have some silly sellers, but without them, you don't have the smart buyers. So there's accumulation there. It's about the process and the system. Plus the wallets, been fantastic, fantastic. I cannot congratulate enough the new people coming on board who we have had zero problems with downloading a Zcoin wallet, ticking the boxes, making sure the notification. Oh, that's the other thing. Prepare yourselves that when you got your Zcoin wallet, if you're there's gonna be big instructions coming. Riley's gonna share the big news Thursday night next week, and for God's sake, listen, read, follow. If you do that, your Zutopia experience will be wonderful because it is firing on all cylinders. It's instant transfers now, people. There's no 90-second clocks. It's fast. You know, you press the button to buy or sell, that's boom, swoosh. It's going to happen. Money move. Dr. Zoo can sit by the pool with his pina colada or beer and relax knowing that some dimwit's not going to try and fraudulently scam the system. Stripe will be happy and the world will be a wonderful view. A bit like sitting up there on Artemis looking down on this blue ball. It's going to be awesome. So with that processes, just make sure we'll get a bit more lead up to this. Make sure that you follow that and you won't have any problems. It'll be very, very simple. Thrilled to see the onboarding of the wallets. There's still tweaks coming. Don't worry. We're behind the scenes. We've got a lot of things that we're pushing together and it'll come out as well. Particularly the bigger market push that we've got lined up post this, which is about Zukaz. Won't go over that again today, but you're going to get some big news on that one too. That's going to be unbelievable how that's working out. Better than I could have ever thought. And I'll just say now, for those, single people out there that have been enjoying Tinder or one of those sites, it'll be very, very simple in terms of swiping left or right for merchants and products. Never been done before. We like to do that. Lock it into Zutopia at the same time. Tokenization is going to be massive. And you, Zukonians from all around the world, will have possession and control. And we're going to help our American friends out. We're going to give them safety, security, the ability to control, and really just get out there and enjoy the ride that's coming and where we're going. So, there we go. That's a funny one. I like that. So hungry. Mysterious newbie. One of the greats. That looks like, actually, I think that's an older version of Jim Chalmers waiting for his retrospective tax to come in from 2006. So, his government officials, they're always hungry. So, now, we've got a couple of little ones here. I might focus now before we wind up today. We're going to wind up on time. 6,500 coins at $1,000. How many trades to get this done? Well, look, in terms of the market, it could be, that might be 100 trades, that might be 10, that might be 1. So the strategy never has changed. We want millions, if not tens of millions of people, and you get in the free market to position yourself as to how you want a buyer or seller to respond. Now remember, and we'll probably touch on this a bit more on Thursday night because it's relevant next week, 23rd of April, people. But we'll probably touch on this because partial orders is a big feature. So you may decide you're not interested in having multiple buyers at various prices because you can control that yourself. That's got nothing to do with Zutopia. It's your free market, but you might put up one order, 6,500 coins, $1,000, and it's whoopee time. Whoopee time. And, on the quantity theory of money, not Dr. Zoo giving any advice or anything like that, just straight mathematics, which can be challenged by anybody if they so wish. But demand, exceeded demand with utility, is what's a huge driver on how you can reflect on price. Now, I think even if you take today, there's been massive fluctuations in the last week. 1 minute we're good with Iranians, next thing we're not good. Next thing they've got the Strait of Hormuz under control. Next thing we have, and of course, you've got the fluctuations. We're back to 74,936 on Bitcoin US dollars. I see some of these other ridiculous ones are having trouble. Peppy coin, they've got so many decimal points after the bloody thing that that'll be a tricky one to try and work out what the hell that price is. Melania's in trouble. So the fart coin, that's about to be vaporised. But there you go. Trumpy coin is down as well. So again, quantity theory of money, we should be based on pure maths. The numbers we have, 20% the value of Bitcoin. Said it before, say it again. That's what we believe in our own minds. Now, mystical being, yeah, that is right. Emphatic Earthling. Iran is using to bypass the entire world system. And that can put pressure on Bitcoin too, because someone's got to keep the machines running to validate the transactions. But just think about this for a minute. If they're already talking about freezing accounts around the time of Satoshi, this is the developers, having a little chit-chat. What stops them from freezing any account where Bitcoin is held? What's the distinction? Because you've now got concentration in terms of the processing. Remember, Bitcoin is the great wall of Bitcoin. Little blocks go in and the boys get together. They chew up half a country's energy. That's why we don't have many miners in Australia, because Chris Bowen's still trying to work out where to bury the renewable solar panels. They're all stuffed. Toxic, highly toxic. No, you haven't worked out what to do with them. Where are the greenies now? Put all this stuff on the roof when they don't last forever. They're made in China, got all the shit in them, and then you say, I'm going to take it to the local tip. You'd be joking. But because they need massive energy consumption, which we can't put our hands up for, I mean, even look at the other day. Look at this. You have a fire. We have a fire at the Viva refinery at Geelong. What are the chances? What are the chances that that refinery, which supplies 10% of refined gas, oil rather, and diesel and stuff, 10% supply to the Australian domestic market, 50% of that Geelong factory goes as refined oil, diesel and stuff for Victoria, 50%. What are the chances? No, I don't like conspiracy theories. I mean, Satoshi could be Donald Trump for all I know. But what are the chances is that refinery, who's had a few minor accidents since it started, but has never had a fire of that scale, and it's been around since 1954. 1954. Can you just get your heads on that? What a miraculous turn of events that there's a fire at the one of two refineries in this great country, because everything else is stuffed, and it was built and commenced operations in 1954. I mean, surely there's some memes that are coming out on that one, eh? I mean, the last great event, as you all know, and would be well and truly attuned to, in 1954. Well, there's two events, actually. Two. One, the Western Bulldogs, Footscray, won its flag in 1954. What a momentous occasion. And then they backed that up in 2016. Incredible. Dr. Zoo was there for that, had his first heart attack. But at the same time, they opened this refinery, and it bubbles along all these years, and then in the last 24 hours, there's a fire that disrupts supply because Chris Bowen has run out of jerry cans in order to fill to keep this country going, which is why it makes it harder and harder for countries to continue to maintain processing of Bitcoin at $88,000 a US a shot, and they're at 74,000 and they're underwater. But Iran sits on all this oil and energy. So it could continue with those mining operations. And that means they're outside the banking system, so the sanctions and controls aren't worth pissing on because the banks aren't the problem. This little product called Bitcoin. But if they can change the goalposts and the rules and freeze accounts, welcome to the world, Iran, of crypto. That's not the world that we see globalization of Zoocoins and Zutopia. Still within the law, don't get me wrong. The entire processes follow through. The moment you put your hand up in Zutopia, you are going to put your hand up to KYC and compliance, and you're in the system. That's not a problem. What is the extraordinary thing is that the process of the transaction is between peers, and the split chain only has the caching, which is what is gold for keeping it alive around the world. As I said once before, roughly 100 million wallets can be played with, looked after on the caching for $105 a month, and you'll see more of that coming out over the next 6 months. That is going to be massive. Now, just in closing, people, there was another great event in 1954 I want to share with you today, because it tells you that sometimes, out of nowhere, our lives change forever. And one of those will be the Zoocoin Zutopia. And in 1954, Dr. Zoo's grandfather began the Dynasty Empire at a racetrack meeting in Sydney, Randwick. And he had a few quid in his pocket, and at long odds, he put it on a horse called Belmont Park. And to his surprise, that same horse was running in the very next race. The very next race. Can you believe it? Imagine a horse doing that today. Imagine Winks or Autumn Glow and running in one race, and then the very next race they're running again. Now, it hasn't happened since 1890, but this horse, called Belmont Park, ran in two races immediately together. And guess what? It won both. Now, he took advantage of that situation, couldn't believe the horse won the first one, ended up winning the second race, and turned that into a fortune. It doesn't take much, people. And you people, long-term, hardened supporters, been through hell and back, listen to all the crap from the noise and chatter around us, product there, faith in the great man. I'm talking, well, a couple of great men now, actually, but the greater man, Robert Novak, and always keep an eye on his website, myzoocoins.org. That's where you get all the intelligence feedback of what's happening if you want to dig into the bowels of the software and the system and what's happening. It's an extraordinary journey. But the opportunities are there now. This momentous occasion you're going to hear about on the 23rd of April, next Thursday. You will look back and say, gee, what that was worth the pain, the wait, because the system comes first. And you don't get the problems that we've always said. We don't want a support desk. We just want people to be comfortable, use it, know there's systems and protections, and all of a sudden you are in box seat because you have the Zoo coins, and the rest of the world gets to wake up and say, how the hell do I get some? Because they can only get them from the early adopters. You guys are the market. So you control what you pricing, how you see partial orders, how you see the full orders, what price you want, whether you wait, whether you don't. And those that do declare, it's worth going to the ATO site, if those declare that they are personal exertion type coins held, by the time we get merchants realising that this is the mechanism to accept coins and tokenization and creating products and direct marketing to you guys with wallets, with notifications and instant transferability, you will get the advantage of not just the tax break while it lasts before Jimbo wakes up and decides to change his mind, but that process also leads to people that are going to get absolutely smashed with AI, with no jobs, no future, no prospects, no point going to university, can become innovators and creators of wealth through creating fractionalization and their own tokens, and AI will be assisting to thump out those products that the rest of us can enjoy and use without a middleman like Facebook, without being bombarded with all of these ads and things that you see and scams, and get true value as you then can participate with those trading as well to make money on. And more to come on that later. That's really take us to next level stuff, people. So fantastic to have you here. It's been a long journey, we know. Dr. Zoo just can't wait to be part of that action. Getting itchy feet. There's a lot of big things happening around the world that haven't been blown up at this stage. Good things to see and do. And that G800, the best thing that'll come out of this is that when the photos start to come in of the G800 at the Albury airport and the whinges start and they moan and carry on about how easy we got it, it'll be just a very polite smile with a nice beer or pina colada looking back saying, welcome to the ride. On that happy note, people, I'm going to leave you. We'll chat a bit more about another topic on Monday, but whatever you do, I'm telling you, come in, listen, 23rd, next Thursday. You won't regret it. You've waited. We said it. The team's doing it. And, oh, man, look out. Look out.